Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the SLB Show. It is myself, Grant, it is Mitch and Louis as well. So the three of us here to debate the ongoing weekend. What was, we hyped it as such a big weekend of British basketball. Maybe the Friday night games let us down a little bit in terms of close games. But guys, firstly, Louis, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Grant. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Mitch, you good?
I'm good, yeah. Busy week of basketball, ready to go.
Ready to go. So let's get straight into it. First game, we're going to jump across the weekend. There's going to be no real order to this other than so we can talk about the teams. First game we're going to talk about, or kind of base our discussion around, is Manchester going down at home to the Sheffield Sharks, 84-106. Let's start with your Sharks, Louis. An impressive win, a big win for them, because Manchester at times this season have looked like the next team to step up. Sharks without William Lee, I'm right in saying that, but with Mervyn James just getting more court time, just kind of looking better every time you get on the court. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, it's because in the first game, integrating kind of Mervyn's kind of the issue, but now, especially, like, he's definitely been showing out and been playing very well. And against Manchester, just all the pieces kind of clicked. First half, Manchester kind of made it competitive with a lot of kind of easy transition points. Kind of Sheffield kind of gave up, but in the second half, Sheffield just kind of found a way with it, really.
And there was at times in that game where Manchester's defense just totally does, like, there was no transition defense. Like, what's that all about? And when you look at Sheffield, I'm continually impressed by, and I'm not just blowing your trumpet here, but Nick Cairn, I really enjoy watching what he, I really enjoy what he brings to a team. He's very much the type of player that's really suited to our league.
I mean, he got more than 1 point a minute. I think he got like 18, 17 points in 15 minutes or something crazy. But that's in good games. That's what he brings. He's an additional kind of guy that gets to the rim, which is, I find, is really valuable. You know, because getting to the rim is just such a valuable commodity. And his just activity this game, like, he really hustled for an offensive rebound. I really remember, you know, a couple of offensive rebounds that were really key, kind of pivotal in kind of the swing in the second quarter. You know, his defensive activity kind of made some really good plays, and so he's been playing very well. So.
Mitch, I don't know how much of this game you saw, but Chapman's someone who's returned to the fold. Some of his passing display, a couple of nice alley-oop dunks as well. This game had it all in terms of that entertainment, lots of like dunks at the basket. But as someone like yourself, Mitch, watching Chapman, what do you think he offers the Sharks? Because I always just say, you know what, we talk at times when Chapman was out being like, is it Nixon's team? Is it whatever? But Chapman, talk Chapman.
For me, looking at Chapman, he's kind of a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. Because he kind of does a little bit of everything, he can fit into whatever role the team needs. And he doesn't need to bear a massive amount of scoring loads with this team. He's got the amount of players that can put up double digits in a game is basically pick a player on the roster, they can probably do it. Pretty much in the top 8 or 9 guys can all drop you at least 10 or 12 in a game if they need to. Chapman just fills his role, and you said about the passing there, 10 assists in the game, that's team high, that's just mental, I think, and you want more of that, and if he's going to keep going at that, there's not much more you can really say.
Yeah, to add on to that, in that game, they really kind of made Chapman more of like a traditional point guard, really getting into sets, kind of moving the ball about for like guys like Mervyn to kind of attack. Dirk had some really nice plays that game.
Dirk was the next one I was about to mention off the back of that. Is this the type where if Chapman takes that more of that ball handling duties, it allows the big question about Sheffield a lot of the times is there's only one ball and so many guys want it. But if Chapman is going to be that point guard first role, it's only going to benefit guys like Mervyn James and Dirk.
Yeah, definitely. It's prioritizing kind of usage and, you know, where they want the ball to kind of be at, you know, and moving the ball out of, you know, Chapman in ISO, you know, less of that, more of, you know, a lot of dangerous scorers kind of Sheffield have. So, yeah, it just makes it better for them. So.
All very positive though for Sheffield to get that road win against Manchester. Like that to me, Mitch, is a big kind of statement victory, like going on the road at any time. It feels like Sheffield at times maybe don't get the results they should be getting with this team, but getting that win against Manchester is huge.
Massive win. I think a big part of it is also how efficient they were. And I think you mentioned with Manchester's defense slipping and that kind of being a massive factor for it. But if you go into any game and shoot 50 or 7 3-point line, that's huge. The impact that can have is just ridiculous. So for myself, to say just a dominant, efficient performance from Sheffield away from home. And that you kind of see it this year already. The more positive results you see behind the scenes in away games, is just those are the games that matter more. You're more likely to win at home anyway. So if you can get a couple of away wins, it makes all the difference in the world.
And that also felt from a matchup point of view, Louis, when we speak about matchups. Sheffield going to 9-6 on the same amount of games played now as Manchester, who are 8-7. Obviously, they came into this weekend 8-5. Manchester, we'll talk about in a second. But for Sheffield to get that win, having played 3 less games than Phoenix, to be 1 game back, feels like Sheffield, though, are kind of pushing towards being that second-ranked team.
Yeah, it got a little bit, I don't know, a little bit concerning, especially with like the couple games dropped. But you know, they're definitely in race for second, and you know, with that performance, it's a good springboard to kind of go forward on. So, yeah.
Good place for Sheffield to be. But let's talk about Manchester. This is one of these weekends where, for them, coming out of it, going into this weekend, you'd be like, we've got 2 tough games against 2 good teams, but we should and could be winning them. Going down first, obviously, we've just said about to Sheffield, 84-106, second half collapse, to going down to the Riders by 7, 102-95. And let's be honest, a game where it was nip and tuck the whole way. Like, that was one of these games where Manchester could have taken it down to death, and Leicester, for I think it was Spencer Johnson, hit a couple of big threes and at the clutch moment. But what is it, Mitch, for you? When you look at Manchester, we've talked at times and wanting them to be that second team. They're sitting on in 4th, round about the 500 mark. They're 8-7. They're in that kind of mid-table. It feels like they're mid-table. Leicester are getting closer. Surrey are getting closer to them. Bristol are getting closer to them. Is Manchester still that team that on their day, if someone like a Kayem Cleary is playing incredible, they'll probably get a chance to win? Are they a similar team to Sheffield? And this is the second part of the question for you then, Louis. Are they a similar type of team to Sheffield that all these players need the ball to contribute? But they just have that less of a team focus. So what is it firstly for you think, Mitch?
I mean, with you kind of pushing it there, I think everyone's on their night, Manchester are capable of holding their own against basically anybody in the league. I mean, there's some question marks for the Leicester game already. The fact that Max Jones didn't play the entire first quarter, just was on the bench, just didn't play. That's a question mark in itself. I'd be curious what's going on behind the scenes there and if there's some tension there. But I don't know. They're perplexing with me. I don't really know what to say about Manchester at the moment because they've clearly got the talent, but they're just not performing.
There's just zero consistency. Like other teams, you kind of know what you're going to get. You kind of know what you're going to get from Sheffield. We know what we're going to get from London. We kind of are beginning to see what Cheshire are able to do now as well. But Louis, second part of that question aimed at you. What do you got to think?
Yeah, like Manchester, a big part of its defense, right? Because in the Leicester game, they scored 95 in the 90s that game. So I mean, if you're giving up 100, that's clearly not good. And as we said, talk about Sheffield, you know, the defense in some of those possessions was just awful. I mean, Nick Kern literally getting the ball at like half court, literally like straight line to the rim, like no one in semi transition not picking up. But it's just kind of the defensive side is just a big issue really, and they need to sort it out. And as you say, just fitting in different pieces. You know, they do have a lot of tough scorers like Max Jones, etc. You know, the 2 guards are Jordan Johnson and PJ are, you know, they're dangerous scorers, but you know, it's about a balance between, you know, the defensive side and offensive side, and guys like Like it's not kind of sexy to talk about like a Carl Carey, but or like a like Additive Hassi, but those are the types of players that will defend for you,
Yeah.
and provide that value other than being outward scorers. So they kind of need to lean into that a little bit.
When we look at their next 5 games, they've got Newcastle and Bristol both at home. Well, 4 of the next 5 games are at home. They only face Cheshire away. They play Newcastle, Bristol, Gladiators, and London in their within the next 5 games. They've got Newcastle next weekend at home as well, and Newcastle's form is very much up and down as well. So it very much feels Manchester are the almost team. Like it feels like they could potentially click very soon, which is going to make a really interesting thing. But for Leicester, that felt like a big win. Like we know Leicester had a really slow start to this season. They've made multiple roster changes. I think, Louis, did we say, you can nod or thumbs up, was it nine imports they've used so far this season? Or 8 or 9 anyway, and that doesn't include Denzel Mahoney or obviously Johnny O'Neill as well, who they had to change in the pre-season. But it feels like with Battle, Carey, Spencer Johnson just hits big shot after big shot he did in this game against Manchester. It very much feels Leicester currently in that midfield battle, but I kind of just like what Leicester are doing. Mitch, what's your thoughts on them?
I mean, you look at Leicester, how they played, and I'm watching this game back. Like, their coach's dream, really. If you look at it, that game, particularly against Manchester, like the fact that you've got 6 different players all hitting double digits, that they're hitting 100% from the free throw line, that they're just playing good basketball, and how much of that is they're also as a midfield team in Manchester who are maybe not quite as organised and as structured as a Rob team is, but it shows the impact he can have and the efficiency you can get from basically your entire playing roster to be effective. Yeah, it's just good to see across the board. It's a good win for Leicester.
Are they a team where we look at their past? I'm looking at their past 5 games. Their defeats to the only defeat that stands out in the sheet is they lost to London, which I think was a really good game over the festive period. They only lost that by 8. Their defeat to Newcastle on the road was maybe the big question mark. But getting wins against, an under-firing Bristol, getting a win against Manchester. They got a great win against Cheshire away as well, which maybe was spoken about for other reasons the other week. But what is it, Louis, for you that stands out about this Leicester team? Is it just that kind of 2-prong attack initially with Carey and Battle, or what else do they have to them?
For me, it's the kind of structure of how they've recruited like their roster. They've obviously got the 2-pronged attack, as you said, of Battle and Carey. Carey being a very dangerous ball handling guard that get to a shot, solid good playmaker, gets a good rate of assists. Battle being one of the, I would just say the best shot maker in the league, point blank. In terms of as an off-ball shooter, that's very valuable as a spacer. And then he can get to his own shot and create for himself as an additional kind of creator. You have a guy like Spencer Johnson who gets under the radar, but he defends well. He's a solid player. You can run him like secondary pick and roll occasionally, but hits his spot up shots. A guy at the 4 spot, bringing back Mark Loving, which is huge. I feel like that's one of the most important things to kind of round out the roster. Because previously they had Acott, who I don't feel like would have provided as much value. With a guy like Mark Loving, you have catch and shoot guy, attack off the catch, just be a solid, a very good role player. Essentially, that's what he is. As a valuable kind of tertiary guy, as valuable as you could be in tertiary guy, and then Nate Martin, who's not a ball dominant center. He fits in his role perfectly fine. But I just feel like just the way that they've kind of structured their roster now, it's just a dangerous team. And the second half of the season, I really feel like they should really be battling kind of the top 3 and top 4 rather than be a mid-table team.
They have, over the next 5 games, Bristol, Surrey, Newcastle, London, and Surrey. And maybe barring the London game away, You go, there's no reason why Leicester can't go 4-1. Surrey, obviously, we're going to potentially not overhype them, but hype them up a lot shortly. But I think that with Battle and stuff, they've got a really, really strong team. Let's look at London and Eagles. A really tight game to start. Eagles, I think, only trailed by 4 or 5, maybe 6 points at one stage. I think it was like 26-20. And then all of a sudden it was a 20-odd point game and London kind of blew them out of the water. Obviously, London, one for you, Louis, off the bat. London adding some new players in during the weekend anyway. What do you make of both of them?
Yeah, so okay, Chauncey Brown, I think is his name. He's just like in the Twitter post I compared him to Will Yoakum, kind of like a Euro Cup equivalent, basically being this super uber like attack off the catch kind of guy, crazy at kind of getting to his right side, like if there's a bad closeout, good catch and shoot guy. There can be a little bit inconsistent. But that's kind of where his value is, being a strong defensive kind of presence and being like this, basically like a 3-and-D kind of wing guy. And then their other guy, Dawkins, one of the guys that played in Cyprus, basically. But I watched a little bit of him because I wanted to draft up a post about him, but I'll make it soon. But basically he's like this really shifty kind of like 6'4" guard, really tight handles, really agile. Like I watched him in a game against Zaragoza. Like he dealt really well with coming like their aggressive ball screen coverage because he's got really tight handles. Smart player. In Europe Cup, he was absolutely lights out from deep. Basically, he's just a really solid guy.
Is he one of these ones that off the stat sheet you go Cyprus, from Cyprus going to London, you're surprised at, but actually we talked about this. Is this one of the ones once you actually delve into him? Nigel Hawkins, thank you, man. But is he one of these guys that actually, when you see what he can bring to the game, he could suit a role at London? Mitch, when you look at London and they're able to have like Kieran Sandy's back in the mix, and he had a really, in my opinion, impressive performance in this game. Matt Goodwin continually, in my opinion, impresses because he's given such small amount of time on court. It's almost as if these guys are given, well, you're on the court, you've earned your court time, go prove a point, go prove your job's worth, go prove that the minutes you're getting are worth it. And these guys, I feel, are just playing really efficient basketball when they're asked upon, especially guys like Sandy and Goodwin.
Yeah, definitely so. I think it's probably partially down to the coaching and probably the change in leadership at London anyway, is that they're kind of they know what it takes to perform at the highest level.
Yeah.
And they're not shying away from giving them opportunities, like you said. I mean, Matt Goodwin played 24 minutes against Newcastle, which that's quite a lot, considering what he usually does. But he's finishing a positive plus minus. He's not played horrendous. Like stats wise, there's nothing that massively jumps off the page, but he's coming in, having a positive contribution. That in itself is a step in the right direction for a young British player to have in our league. And you're doing it with the biggest team in the league that are playing Euro Cup. Like, they're looking for British guys that are going to come in and have an impact in the SLB and help hold down the fort while maybe the more high-end players get the job done in Euro Cup. So it's a chance for him to do that. Kieran Sandy, I've seen a couple of seasons ago with Kieran. Like he improved a lot and he's been a factor in games. But now he's doing it with a different coach, with a different management of London, and he's back to doing what he's done before. He's being efficient with his time. Like I look at that and just see a 26 plus minus for Kieran, and I think that's just incredible in 30 minutes. That's really impactful.
I think Kieran Sandy is one of these ones for me that just does the job asked for him. And I think people came in when he signed for London, out of D2. People were like, he was at the London when they had all their ex-NBA guys, and he was maybe playing second, third unit, not really getting much game time. But last season, I think, was really good for him when London maybe wasn't at their strongest. He's obviously missed a lot of gameplay this season, injured. But I'm genuinely curious to see how he would do on, say, another team, because he wouldn't be such a role player. Like Louis, when you think of, like, I think Keenan Sandy, first I think he's a really versatile type forward kind of player. But like, I'd be so curious to know what he would do on another team, Louis.
Yeah, definitely. His key is just being a really dogged defender. Like
Yeah.
he apparently he did a really good job on Maceo, I heard. So that's kind of his thing. You know, he's a solid, catch and shoot guy. You know, on another team, just think about how kind of Kareem Queeley looked in his first month or so before he got injured. For Surrey. Or look at kind of how Carl Carey kind of finagles his way into playing more minutes during the season. Because he's that type of kind of Carl Carey kind of. He's a little bit bigger than Carl Carey, so in terms of versatility and kind of defending, bigger wings, etc. He's more valuable in that regard, but just being a really solid kind of player that kind of really plays well off of other imports, which I find is really valuable. So, yeah, as you say, it'd be really interesting. So,
Is that a case? Sorry, Mitch, on you go.
It makes a lot of sense. So, like with our league being so import dominant, the British guys need to be able to play a role efficiently and do it well. And Kieran does that really well. That's as Cal Carey does too for Manchester and in previous teams as well.
It's one of the things when we look at London's squad right now, adding in 2 bodies, curious to see how much time they play in the SLB. Obviously, Joe Scott's out injured. Must be due back not too far down the road, maybe a month or so away. But curious to see how much he plays now domestically. McGusty's out injured. Reynolds has just come back in. Like, it feels as if you look at London and you go, okay, who is, like, Joe Scott was their main scoring threat. Then it was McGusty for a while. Reynolds kind of leads them with kind of 13 points a game. But they do such a job of sharing the scoring load. Like, Williams just under 10 points. I think Dean Williams might be one of my favourite players. Like, I think Dean Williams is incredible.
Get him for GB, man.
Like,
play for GB.
We need to start a movement just to get Dean Williams in a GB vest.
We got to do for getting minutes. All right, if we can do that, we can get Dean Williams.
We wished that into existence, didn't we?
We did do that. So
Dean Williams for GB.
Carry on.
No, but he's such an exciting player. He can shoot the 3 ball. He defends big. He's so electric at the basket. He's doing it on both, obviously, domestically, but in Euro Cup as well. Dean Williams for GB. It's happening. We are going to hopefully make it happen. Adam has continued to impress me. It's their British core that's kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them, especially domestically. Even Price is beginning to put in better performances as well. Curious to see with these 2 additions of Hawkins and the other chap, who's, I want to say Brown, but I can't remember if that's true, what they'll do for them, because I want to see how London do in this second part of Euro Cup and how they balance domestically, because I'm really, really curious. Let's talk, though, about Eagles. Eagles, similar situation to Manchester. Coach Strutle just getting player of the month, coach of the month of December, 5-1 record. Their only defeat came to the Gladiators somehow, and they were played off the court in that one. But they had a tremendous month. And it seems as if this weekend, okay, they almost came. They had a shot for the tie against Cheshire on Sunday. They lost that game 101-98, but we're miles out of that game at halftime. Like, Mitch, you watched the first half of that one, and you're confused how it finished that close.
Yeah, pretty much. Got watching through it, saw the massive gap that was going by Cheshire. But my thought process was, this is going to be ugly. They got up by 21 points at one point in the first half. I was like, this is just not. I think it's part of it is down to what we often see with some of the cup tournaments, where it's the first week after they've made a final, that team has a slump.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so they got beat by London by double digits on Friday. It's going to happen again on the Sunday against Cheshire. Let's leave it. And then I've come back on later in the evening to find out it was a 3-point game. How the hell did that happen? What the hell was Cheshire doing to let them slip through? It's just, it's just mental. I don't know how it happened.
I mean, I heard it might have been a little bit rough drill. Let's not get controversial this week. So,
but it's a case when you look at Newcastle. they've got so much individual talent. Like I like Maceo Jack. We know what Maceo Jack 3.0 is coming. He's coming back as if he's trying to prove a point. Is there still, what is missing from Newcastle? Because I feel like, okay, London, they got down in that game and London just kind of stood in their throats. Against Cheshire, they started slowly and not really able to get going. And second half just kind of worked their way. What did you say? They scored 31 points in the fourth quarter? Am I right in saying that?
34.
34 points in that fourth quarter to close that in on that game and had a shot to take it to overtime. Like, what are Newcastle missing? Are they missing anything? Like, I feel as if they're, some weeks they look like they're the Rolls Royce of the league, and in other weeks you're like, what's happened to them? Like, they've lost obviously back-to-back weekends. They then beat Surrey, they beat Leicester, they lost to the Gladiators, and you're like, how all of a sudden, like, they went 5-1 in December, and then all of a sudden they're now starting the year 0-2. Like, someone, Louis, tell me, talk to me, explain to me.
They're talent laden, but as we said in pre-season, if you remember, Grant, they're very kind of wing heavy. If we kind of watch them play, they're very isocentric. I felt as
that's Newcastle basketball.
That is Newcastle basketball. That is stew ball, to be perfectly frank. But stew ball. But if, like I said about the Burn signing, how I liked that, and how when you kind of bring a more of a playmaking presence in terms of him versus Rayshon Taylor. But a big thing for me in terms of like secondary creation is kind of the playmaking, or the ability for the secondary creator to pass, or the ability for any secondary guy to actually assist anyone else. I feel like that's really big, and that's why I got Caledonia in preseason, and I feel like that's kind of come through. But but basically, in their starting lineup, they're playing kind of Maceo is that second ball handler. As we say, Maceo 2.0 has been terrific, scoring the ball. 3.0, sorry. He's been terrific scoring the ball, but he's not a passer. If we look up and down the lineup, that they have a guy like Cole Long. He's not that guy really at all. Other pieces, it's not really that, and it kind of gets things dodgy. And then defensively, they can have stretches where they really struggle, and it kind of culminates in this kind of underperformance we've kind of seen recently. And
you're kind of relying upon Gordon to really do all the passing for you. And I mean, he had a good all-round start line for the game, but if it's just one guy trying to do all that on his own, it's quite tough. I mean, Mitch Clark gave you 2 points of 13 minutes off the bench. Dion Hammond, for me, stands out 1 for 7 on 3. He's not even scoring the ball. Like, that's.
I want him to be better.
I want him to be better. Yeah, I want better from him, because that's like, you're 3 for 10 for the game. You're playing 27 minutes. Like, if you're not scoring it, there's other things you can do.
Yeah.
Partially by helping other people get open and get good passes. I don't know. I think Dion Hammond, for me, if he gets more productive, I think that's going to be a massive factor for them.
Look, for me, I like Dion Hammond in their kind of squad makeup, because they don't have that kind of off-ball guy to be really that kind of gravity presence out on the perimeter. Like a shooter that really forces defenses up. Because they can run like inbounds, etc. for him, and I like that in terms of their roster construction. But as you say, you need that production, and if you're having lineups where you don't have secondary handlers, it's tough, and especially when they're really ball stopping, like stodgy. A guy like that needs to be fed the ball properly. So I feel like that's kind of like a canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So
I mean, the question that comes to my mind then is, you look at the comparison to Newcastle Cheshire games we've had in the last week, right? We played each other twice in Cheshire, twice in both weekends. Cole Long at 2 for 6 this weekend. Didn't go for his streak that he did. If he goes for that, maybe a very different game. But you look at overall 3-point shooting wise across both teams, pretty much on par. I mean, Newcastle are not as efficient as Cheshire were. They took 31 compared to 22, but one hit 9, one hit 10. So the 3-point shooting is not the massive factor there. It's, I don't know. I mean, again, we've talked about Cheshire's physicality on defense and the challenges they bring. Newcastle have struggled with that at times. It is, again, I'm still blown away. Got the game got that close. It doesn't make any sense to me. In fact, it just, but again, I don't know if that's because Cheshire let up. But if you're letting Newcastle score 30 plus points in the fourth quarter, you're just not not. It's not like you're not trying. Your focus isn't there.
When we look at Newcastle, they've got a double-header weekend. They play Bristol home before going to Manchester. But then after that, they have the brilliant world of the SLB schedule this year. They have 3 weeks off after that. There's a few teams with similar schedules coming up with big gaps.
That's wild.
Like, yeah, I was chatting to Lloyd Gardner about some of the schedules. They've got crazy amount of games this month, and the Gladiators only have one more, for example. So is this a case where Newcastle need to try and finish, if they can finish January 2-2, that's what their focus is going to be. They've got to win the next 2 games, split them on 500, because right now they're sitting 8th in the table. And I mean, I don't know where Gladiators are getting wins from, but they're not a team. I mean, we did predict them to be pretty low down the table. We got a lot of backlash from the Eagles faithful, which, yes, it's just our predictions. We got Bristol. Well, actually, Bristol are dropping down into where we predicted them, to be honest. But yeah, Lee, what are you about to say? You remember you're muted.
Yeah, just we told you so. No, not really. That's not true. Newcastle.
Come on, Lee.
No, I don't mean that. But basically, Newcastle are very talent laden. Terrell Bird was playing in Pro B France last season. Gus Okafor was playing in Pro B France. Dion Hammond was playing in BBL Germany.
Yeah.
This is a very talent laden squad, and they really need to kind of figure out what works. That's the core, the crux of the issue.
And we know that Newcastle are a team that gets better as the season goes on. Traditionally, Stutel's team peak for playoffs and finals and whatnot. So definitely, you can't, when you've only got 8 teams making the playoff, 1 team missing out, you can't discount the Lions. Eagles, even if they end up, playing against the Lions, say, in the first round. But yeah, you've got to expect that.
Or the Lions in the trophy.
And Lions in the trophy final, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So definitely one on Eagle, Mitch.
I think with Cheshire as well, like every game for them matters, more so because they've got that many games ahead of everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Because all those games in hand are with every other team in the league, they can't afford to lose any games. They need to win as much as they can. So any win over anybody is massive, but almost losing to Newcastle, who are desperate for wins a lot more than they are to be in a better fight to avoid London. Yeah, it's Cheshire have got a lot of pressure on them to keep that spot.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. When we're talking about Cheshire, a brilliant win for them. They've now, they've won 3 out of the last 5. They did drop to Sheffield at the tail end of the year. They did drop that game by a point to Leicester. Every game, bar the win. Their win against Newcastle. They did actually get a convincing win against Manchester and a convincing win against Surrey. So ignore what I was about to say. But Cheshire now are in a situation where 10-8. They've played 18 games. They've played 3 more than Manchester and Sharks below them when their games in hand. It gets really interesting. But they've at least got the wins on the board. Where did Cheshire sit? Are they in that second rung of the table in terms of they're fighting for that top set or that top 2 spot? Are they sitting in that second, third, fourth battle? Or because they've got those games still to play, like, we've been really surprised about how good Pat Robinson's been. Skylar White just continually does what Skylar White does best, for example. I think Cheshire, I've yet to see the eye test on Cheshire this season. They've not been up the road yet. They're up the 30th of January, I think. Gladiators play them. Yes, it is. Friday night game. That'll be good fun. So I've not seen them with the eye to really get a good look at them. But when you watch them, they try and play that typical bend pace, really push the tempo, lots of threes, but that whole hustle energy is still there. Where do we see Cheshire being? Mitch, you go first.
I was going to put through on to Louis first.
Right, Louis. Louis ran away.
That's why. Okay, fine. I'll go first then, since it's not here. I think the second tier below London, I think, is where they fit.
Yeah.
I look at the games they've had. I look at the Manchester game, for example. The games they have against them, play style wise, from watching them anyway, it feels like they play offensively quite similarly, but Cheshire's just a bit more refined with it. I think it's because they've got more players. It's also Ben's not his first year of coaching. He knows what he's doing with his team, how he wants them to play. Games against Sheffield are always spicy. They're always interesting. They can, so I think they kind of fit in there. The interesting thing is that both of those teams have 3 games in hand.
Yeah.
And all it takes is what Sheffield wins one of those 2. If they win 2 of them, they step above them. Manchester aren't far away. Even mentioned Bristol. Bristol are, if they win their 2 games, they're tied with Cheshire too. But top half of the league makes sense for Cheshire. The question is, are they set 2 or are they set like probably? I'd say 2 or 3 probably in the league. Just from watching them.
You're nodding in agreement, Louis. Is that right?
No. I was just shaking my leg.
Not for yes, but not for no, but for shut. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, I do agree with that. Actually, I'm being facetious. Yeah, I think they're top half team. I think they just play to their philosophy and they can fit really well for it. And yeah, I mean, I don't really need to explain it much. Everyone knows Ben Ball, and everyone knows they're playing really well. So,
is there any player in that roster that has surprised you in a positive way?
Apart from Pat Robertson, that we say, we say every week. But
I mean, we absolutely love Pat Robinson, like we genuinely do. But is there anyone else?
You were big on Policelli in the preseason.
Yeah, he's been playing really well according to plus minus. I think Ben needs to play him more, to be perfectly frank.
I've been impressed by him in the last couple of games as well that I've watched.
Yeah, so I feel they really need to kind of tap into that, because I feel like that's something they could really kind of juice a little bit more out of them. You know?
So are we free Policelli as well?
Yep. Make it a thing. Hashtag free Policelli. But
so, yeah.
Okay, actually being okay. Sorry, Mitch, go on.
Sorry. Is it interesting that we've had quite a few games from Quincy this year where he's not had a massive scoring output? Like, it's not quite the same play style I feel from Quincy we have in the previous season, where he sometimes just drops 20 like it's nothing.
Well,
but that Newcastle giving a 3, but that's not normal for him.
See, my thing is it's because Pat Robinson's handling the ball. He's having to play a lot more off ball, so he's not, previous like Quincy was previously. He's not the guy, so to speak.
Yeah,
he still leads them in assists.
He still leads them in
assists. Yeah, he had 9 assists in the game, so he had a very good passing game.
And is this maybe where you see, we at times have spoken about Cheshire being like, what if LaQuincy goes down? They've never had they've never had that secondary or an option before LaQuincy or at that point guard position. Like, it's kind of maybe sometimes fallen on Greg Wild's shoulders. Whereas now they've got this tandem attack of Pat Robinson, LaQuincy Riddle, then that actually you go, this is really good. And that's where we talked about early in the season on them being like, oh, who is that primary option for them? Actually, it actually just supplements each other really nicely. And it feels like Pat Robinson's maybe at the moment the guy who leads them in scoring and whatnot else. But LaQuincy just ticks away, and you know what you're going to get from him. And you know what? He could in the next 2 months end up being, a player of the month threat, because he could go for 18, 19 points a game in such a short space of time. We've seen that. He does that. Louis, what were you going to say?
Yeah, because I was looking up his kind of catch and shoot percentages this season or like the previous couple seasons, and it's been really decent. You know, we never thought of LaQuincy as this shooter, but yeah, it's really enabled him spacing off of you know, Pat Robertson and enabled him as like a two guard. And with LaQuincy, like his defensive value, you know, we always know that's going to be consistent. He's always going to be one of the most impactful defenders in the league consistently with the amount he gets turnovers, generates turnovers. You know, that's always going to be a consistent thing. And with Pat Robertson and Quincy on the court, you know, like I was talking about Newcastle in terms of secondary playmaking and secondary creation, that means you have 2 point guards on the court. You know, so, you know, if they blow up, you know, one action with like Pat Robertson, throw it to the other point guard. You know, that's really dangerous. You have 2 guys that can, you know, will consistently threaten downhill, and you know, it's a tough, you know, makeup. So
I think it's a really nice roster fit, like roster move by Cheshire this season. I think it's seen like a good adaptation to what Cheshire and their whole roster makeup is about. All right, let's move on. Let's talk the final 3 teams. We'll start with AFC 89ers beating Flyers. They also triumphant second half over the Gladiators. But let's look at Bristol. What is we 2-3 weeks ago gave Andreas Coach of the Year nominations so far. We gave Owen McCormick Most Improved. They only win, what is it? They're 1 win in the last 8 games or something?
it's not great. It's not great.
And that win was the Gladiators, the league's whipping boys. But when you look at Bristol, they are maybe missing a couple players for injuries or battling things. But we've seen this in the past from Bristol where maybe they drop off at times throughout the year. We saw that last season when they were battling injuries. They obviously try and do that dual ENBL fit, try and keep a roster of only 10 players. Surrey had their number pretty comfortably now twice. I mean, not necessarily twice in recent weeks because it was a 1-point game the last time. But I just feel as if something is missing from Bristol. And I struggle to kind of put my hand on it. Will Yoakum's leading their scorer. I think we're all quite big fans of Joe Anderson. But what game was it that it was a Surrey game, he missed those 4 free throws, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He did not come up clutch for them. Owen McCormick's excelling. Has Cam Holden maybe not done what we wanted Cam Holden to do? Like we didn't over predict Bristol. We maybe said they'd be the bottom half of the table, and they seem to be falling into that realms. But I really want, after seeing how they were playing this season, we were big fans of how they played such good team basketball. But what is it that's not working for them right now? Let's start with you, Mitch.
I'm honest. I mean, I'm at a loss. I mean, I do think back to the last couple of seasons we've had with Bristol where they can fly high at the start of the year and then they just slowly start to descend as the season goes on. We saw they started the year and then they just kind of fall off a cliff later on. I'm actually a bit of a loss. It's just feels like something's missing, but I'm not sure what. I'm generally not sure what's going on.
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's like an accumulation of factors. So one reason why I wasn't so high on Bristol was kind of they had a lot of good like team fits, and I think that's why they really seamlessly kind of played well at the beginning of the season. They have a lot of players, like team-centric players. You think about a guy like Zach Anderson, he's an excellent kind of catch-and-shoot player, plays defense. Joe Anderson, who's a really good like ball spreader, like at the one spot, or solid at that. Like fits into a role at the one spot, isn't ball dominant. A guy like Paul Yoakum, who's a terrific kind of spot up guy, playing off ball. And they don't really have that kind of offensive firepower to be kind of a little bit crude with it. They don't have these. If you look against a team like Sheffield, I mean, look at the firepower they're giving up. You know, they don't have guys that can consistently, you know, be created at an efficient kind of rate, you know, point. You know, so that's one issue. Defensively, I feel like the miss of Dugalich is kind of really big, because Dugalich was like his on-off stats, which is, you know, how well they do with him on court and off the court. He was one of the best for Bristol in terms of that defensively by a long distance. But seems that he's like a 6'8", you know, really versatile kind of guy, guards, and you know, across the forward spots. So that's one big issue, and their success was kind of predicated on solid offense, because I think they were around like 5th or 6th, kind of around middle, kind of bottom half, like offensive rating. But their defensive rating was really good, and without Dugalich, that's obviously going to dip. And then, you know, the loss of kind of Jonathan Brown. Yeah, Jonathan Brown recently hasn't helped. You know, he's come back, and obviously Evan Walsh is back. So
that was the next question. Is Evan Walsh going to be the one that can he help? Because obviously he went to Germany short-term contract. Is he the player? We know he did well in Bristol last year. We really liked what he did at Bristol. Is he a player that, give him a couple of weeks, he can really make a big difference now?
Yeah.
I think
sorry.
so.
Who,
no,
Mitch?
I think you have to hope.
Choose Varane. Choose who you want, me or Mitch.
Mitch, you go first.
Yeah, go on.
I think you have to hope he can, from what he's done in SLB before and what he's done in the British game before. Like, we know what Evan brings, especially to a Bristol team. We know exactly what he's going to bring to that team. Lots of energy, attacking the basket aggressively, have the ball in his hands, but actually use driving opportunities to find other people the ball. Again, I think give him a little bit of time, but I think he could be a massive help. But I think Louis makes a very good point about Dugalich, and if that's how do you replicate that? No, Evan's going to be Evan will be a factor. There's no doubt in my mind he will be. He will be a help for that team.
Are we at a stage as well where I've been really impressed by both Del Pesces this season since they've come back. Marcus is he's now starting for Bristol. Like, he's taking the place of Owen McCormick. Darnell Brodie, I want him to do well. Like, he's the type of centre I think should do well in our league, but he doesn't seem to be able to play every minute he's on the court, if that makes sense. Whereas you know what you're going to get from whether it's Malcolm or Marcus Del Pesce, and I've been really impressed by what Marcus is giving Bristol. So they've got pieces there. What are you going to say, Louis?
I was just about to say, like, defensively, like, his pick and roll defense has been crazy. But go.
Like, his defense has been great. He's getting, I think he's averaging 6 points, 4 rebounds. And if you're looking for a Del Pesce to give you that, that's what you want him to do. And he's excelling in that. So I think with Evan back in the fray, you look at their upcoming games. I think if you're a Bristol Flyers fan, it's a tough schedule, but every schedule's tough. You've got Newcastle on the road. You've got 3 games remaining this month. You've got the doubleheader this weekend away to Newcastle, home to Leicester. At home, you know Bristol can do it at home. Like, we know that. Manchester away, Sheffield at home, and if their 5th game, which must be after the international break, is Cheshire at home. So I think you're a Bristol Flyers fan. If you're still winless through the next 5 games, then you worry.
I mean, you can
because
worry now.
I don't think you can worry yet. But in 5 games' time, you start
You
to
definitely
worry.
can worry after 5 games.
Next 5 games, you worry. However, we're talking about teams who shouldn't be worrying. Let's talk Surrey. All right? I had the pleasure of calling them yesterday. And you add in someone like a Tyrone Lawrence to the mix, and what a performance he had. He's maybe the type of player that the Gladiators have struggled to guard all season, fair. But they were comfortable winners yet again. They've won both games by 13 points this week, and that margin was much larger on Sunday until all of a sudden the Gladiators started making some threes. But when you look at their roster, like, they've won, Surrey's last 5 games, 4-1. Tremendous run of games to start. They're 3-0 to start the year. They've got big wins against Sheffield on the road, big win at home to Bristol, and a big win against the Gladiators. For them, superb. You look at their team, Lily and Polite had to do a lot of early pulling this season. But what are they? Small and Graham leading the league in rebounds. 2 players. They rebound better than anyone. They chase down everything. Isaiah Small, maybe the player that impressed me most yesterday, and Tyron Lawrence put up 30 points. That's the insane thing to say. Ned Ash's chipping in as your 8th or 9th option is superb for them. Like, I genuinely think Surrey, if they can stay fit, they're going places. Like, I'm giving them the same level hype we gave Leicester a few weeks back. And I think that's quite high praise.
I think that's fair. I mean, you look at, again, like, I'm sure Leo touched on it, the injection of Tyron Lawrence last 2 games, the impact's been noticeable. But Surrey have been a team all year where they've been able to pick up, they've been competing with teams, they've been fighting it. This is just that extra level of injection where this could just be the game changer for the second half of the season. This now makes them going from a team they're going to face in the playoffs to someone like, we have to actually prepare for this team. We can't just assume we're going to win. And it's good to see. And I mean, looking at what game I'm looking at here, even the Bristol game, you've got Andrew Lawrence only playing 10 minutes in the game. Like, you're not reliant upon an Andrew Lawrence freeze to get the win. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I know it's nothing against Andrew Lawrence; he's a great player, but at times, if you're over reliant on one guy to do all the heavy lifting for you, doesn't work. Surrey are actually starting to find that they have the depth to actually get guys contributing consistently that are not just your 1 or 2 guys.
I wasn't a huge fan of Michael Graham at the start of the season. I wasn't sure when you think about how Dame Adelaide, like, you look at what Surrey did last season with Mervyn and Dame, and I was like, how are they going to be able to do something like what they've done? But as the season's gone on, Isaiah Small has grown on me hugely. And having now seen Michael Graham now twice, I'm like, okay, I get it. He's maybe not the high-flying scoring big as Dame was, but as a shot blocker and a rebounder, he is there to do a role surrounded by scorers like Lily Jr., now Lawrence, and Small. Louis.
Yeah, it's a different role compared to Dame, but he's fulfilling it, really well. Because, as you say, it's offensive rebound. A huge in college. He was, like a terrific offensive rebounder, and that's really translated to the pros. Definitely, really good hands around the basket, which I think is kind of underrated skill. But yeah, like pieces like Tyron Lawrence. I mean, this is a guy that's going places after the season. I'll tell you that for free. Out of Surrey got in a guy out of Georgia. I find that mad. Like, imagine that happening to
Where is Surrey finding the cash?
Yeah. Yeah.
For clarity on that, Louis, just for the people who don't have the awareness that you do, is there a comparison you can give to that? Why signing a player from Georgia is such a big deal?
It's just high major ball. It's like, okay, in football, that's like signing a youth player from like Man City or something. It's like Georgia's a huge program. Really high money. They could get in the best kids out of D1, practically speaking. They have basically carte blanche on recruitment.
Yeah.
So
top caliber guy being recruited one of the top programs, him being available for a team that are in a league that has faced a lot of adversity over the last number of years is a bit surprising.
It is very surprising. But obviously Lloyd's done a top job on kind of getting him to buy in. But Tyron Lawrence is as a high level creator. He scored 30. He really got a lot of easy points in transition. It's not like it was a hard 30, which is really scary. They have a high level scorer, and then I really like what Ron Polite did. Like, before the season, I knew about him. I kind of suggested him as an option for someone. I probably shouldn't say that, but during preseason, I wasn't really too sure because the issue with Isaiah Small not really being great shooter in the full spot, but I feel like he's really I really liked kind of the way he kind of plays as this guy that just gets paint touches, really control player. Then with Lily at the 2 spot, especially with Tyrone Lawrence now, I think is kind of the big addition in terms of really fulfilling like Keane and
But it's the way that with Lawrence down the floor, you've got 3 capable playmakers as such, because Lily can handle the ball decently. So can Small, actually. Small handles the ball more often than I thought he would. It's the way they pass the ball. I haven't seen a team outside of London who move the ball as well as Surrey this season.
Yeah,
and the only time it felt like the Gladiators were getting into the game is when Surrey fell into iso ball. Anytime Surrey moved the ball, more than 4 or 5 passes, they had an open look. They moved the ball. I think they lead the league in assists. If they're not first in assists, they're second in assists. After this weekend, but before this weekend, they were top 2 for sure. They moved the ball tremendous. Like, they shared it well between it. Polite. There's a reason he's one of the best passers or playmakers in the league this year. Like, you can see it. And they've just added a guy, and regardless of what happens with Owen Kuntz, let's be honest, like, he's been really unlucky with stuff. If Lawrence is the full-time replacement for Kuntz, they have landed an absolute gem. If you have not watched Surrey or watched Lawrence yet, you will love watching him. Like, genuinely, he was one of the most enjoyable players to watch. Why are you laughing, Louis Hill?
Just how much praise you're giving. Sorry, I love it. This is serious.
Up the Surrey. All right, I don't want to talk Gladiators at all.
No,
we've gone 57 minutes. I don't want to. I wanted to talk about something else.
Go on.
Let's just hope with only Gladiators don't have a game this weekend. They don't play again to I think the 30th. Let's hope. Finally, they get fully fit. They almost had everyone back. Kyle Jimenez has been out with a knee injury. They really just need to find a way of getting multiple players scoring at a time. They are really, it seems to be one this weekend was Ryan Holland, who did not want to lose. He tried doubly hard. What are you going to say, Mitch?
Let's go shout Ryan Holland out for that score. The score line's pretty damn impressive. But yeah, if you're the only person scoring, if only 2 players scoring with over double digits for your team, it's going to be a tough night.
And Ethan Wright only got those other points right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Ragsdale is stone cold right now. Fraser Malcolm is stone cold. And you know Fraser Malcolm can get going with 1 or 2 threes. Spielman, I think he maybe made 1 3, if that.
He did.
Say again?
Charles missed all his threes.
Charles?
I can't call him Charles. It really bugs me that this season that he comes under Charles. Jet Spielman. Gladiators just suck from long distance, and if their 3 balls not going, they're not in games. And it's very unusual for a team to have all of their outside threats stone cold, and that seems to be where the Gladiators are at right now, which is a massive shame.
That is a very angry Glads fan. Very angry.
Not angry. Angry is not the word. Just disappointed. Just disappointed.
It's very cold up here, is all I'm going to say.
It's very, well, it's either one day or cold. It's one of the others. All right, final thing so the question someone asked in the Discord before we finish off, are Surrey legit? They're looking in the real positive direction. We are quite hyped on them. Yes, they're sitting 7th, but they easily, with a good weekend ahead, could move above Leicester and be looking way further up the table. Teams will not want to play them. Mitch, what are you going to say?
Total conspiracy theory. They've held off on getting Tyrone Lawrence in for this big push.
So they had no games, so they've waited bringing in that final import until the fixture clock.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's all said. These games play for the year. They've won the first 2 with Tyrone Lawrence. They're now they're one game win away from tying mid-table with Bristol. If they win all 3 of their games, they will tie the record. If they get all 3 games in hand, wins the match in Cheshire.
Lee, any final words on those team summaries before we finish with one question and one question only?
The issue is for Surrey, and the question is Surrey legit. There are so many teams that are good now. There are too many teams that are good. Leicester, Manchester, if they ever sort themselves out, Sheffield, etc. My point is finished. Okay, continue. Finish ourselves.
All right, final thing I want to talk about. And it's just the madness of British basketball. And it was a wee bit of Discord chat, Matt's Discord, about Leicester having both a men's game and women's game. And this is where a lot of questions rise, being, is Leicester's SLBW team the same as the men's team? But Leicester Riders women played Manchester the same weekend. Leicester Riders men played against the Manchester men's team. Why is this not one of these weekends where Leicester go, you know what, both games at the Mattioli, let's go crazy and have an absolute Leicester versus Manchester brilliant weekend of games, and instead of both games near enough taking place at the same time, the women over in Loughborough at the netball centre or netball arena, whatever they call it, and the men playing over at the Mattioli. Like, is this not just one of these things which stands out in papers going, is this just one of these things we continually get wrong? You've got the perfect double header there and we've not taken advantage of it. Someone, Mitchell, say something, please.
I mean, should really be a bit of a no-brainer, really, to get crossovers in the men's and the women's game, because how many fans would be, if one's on, they'll go to the other one? If they're both in the same venue, it's a lot more likely, I would think. I mean,
just creates a better spectacle for the women's game as well. Like, give it some respect.
It's an easy way to give them a bigger profile and help develop
100%.
Develop the women's side, because half of the challenge is the exposure isn't there for the women's game compared to the men. So it would have been a no-brainer. It's like we've seen it with some other teams do it, where if they have that back-to-back, it just creates a little bit more buzz for both games. And we've seen the crowds that come and watch the finals with the women's before the men. And how many times have we gone to those events or talked to people that have been at those events?
The women's games have been the best.
Yeah. Like, it's sometimes the women's... Sometimes you'll need to score 110 points in a game to have an entertaining game. You know, like some of the best games you have are the low scoring but tight games. You don't need massive scorelines, and the women's game, I find, can really bring that out sometimes. And it's a missed opportunity for Leicester, and like it should really be a no-brainer.
Like both those. Well, look how close to. I actually can't remember the final score of the women's game, but when you look at the men's game, you saw how close a game it was. And you talk about two teams in the women's league who are pretty close together. Just give it respect. Someone must have said, you know what, this would be the perfect opportunity. And Leicester control their arena. Like they own that. Like that's their place. Like, please just give it some kudos or something, because it deserves it. Like I'm a big advocate of the women's game. I love it. I think you've got some superb players on show, and it really does deserve it. What was the final score? Okay, Manchester blew them away.
Yeah, can I eat my words there? 60-91 was the final score.
But just give the game the respect. Like, give them, please, SLB teams, if you've got a women's team, obviously the Gladiators do it pretty well. Sheffield do it sometimes. But when you've got Leicester, Newcastle could do it even more, in my opinion. Like, to create double headers, do it, see what happens. If it works, don't just not do it because you don't know. Please give it. I mean, Newcastle men play every Friday, with the women play late on a Sunday. It always feels, but like, do something different, make it work, please. And that'll do for how do you go, Mitch?
No, just find a way to make it work. Like, we want the women's game to grow as much as the men. I mean, we saw the women's teams competing in Europe sometimes better than the men in some capacities, and that's we're looking for ways to develop the game and get the profile of the game up. The women's game being successful in a European competition would do that. Surely have some impact just as much as the men's would. But yeah, it's not worth saying anymore. Like, we need to do better to get the women's profile better.
But then, yeah, I'm not getting into that. I could go down a massive rabbit hole on what the SLBW needs to do better. All right, that'll do for an hour and 5 minutes. This week's episode of the SLB Show. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for sharing any content and getting involved in the conversation. My thanks to Louis and Mitch. My name has been Grant. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week where we'll start looking towards the trophy final.